in to that position. He's been sworn in by our town clerk and took his oath of office, and I believe his first day was yesterday. So he's at the school doing some field training with Officer Golden, I think, and more than likely the other two FM school information resource officers. And so far so good. Every day is a little bit different. We've never really had part-time police officers in the town of Manlius, or peace officers. So there's a little bit of growing pains on the hours to be worked and all the other various aspects of that. But for the most part, so far so good. As far as the second position that was approved but remains vacant, we had 5 people that expressed an interest, all of which were qualified. Only 2 of those 5 actually submitted an actual resume with an application. So we're in the process right now looking at those 2 individuals, and we'll be scheduling some interviews from the police side. And then of course we'll schedule interviews on the school end, and hopefully we'll have another filled position as SPO at the FM school district. Continue to work with the district attorney's office on police reform and executive order 203, specifically acting as one of the co-chairs, one of the 5 co-chairs for the county-wide initiative on reform. And I'm in the process right now. I've selected two subgroups to look at 2 different areas of training for Onondaga County wide. I think I have a pretty good grasp on the 3rd subgroup as well. I've been assigned 3 subcommittees, and I'm making really good efforts to make sure that I submit all those names to the district attorney for approval, and then we'll start our meetings. In fact, one of our first meetings is tomorrow, a virtual meeting with the 1 subgroup on crisis intervention team training. So more to come on that, but I'm still collecting information, and then ultimately our group will put together a plan, sort of a broad, overreaching plan for all of the police agencies in Onondaga County on how they need to comply with Executive Order 203. So I'll have a lot more information on that once our subcommittees have met and have addressed all of those 14 or 15 issues in the executive order. As the deputy supervisor mentioned, we're still having some growing pains with our building. They sort of missed the mark on the first phase that we experienced, and there's still a lot of offices that are incomplete. They're inhabitable. So we remain in the trailer. Myself, the captain, we've been doing roll calls every day in the trailer, and all of SIS is also in the trailer. We're starting to run out of room in the trailer. But I'm hoping that they'll complete that next phase, and that we'll be able to move back to our respective offices, and then they'll begin that final phase, which is a good majority of the building. That's going to displace most of our people. That'll make their transition into the trailer. I don't know how we could have done it without the use of the trailer, so I really appreciate the support from the village and the town and getting us that additional swing space, because it's difficult in the trailer because noise carries, so it's kind of difficult to have meetings and concentrate because we're all kind of crammed into that little trailer. But I can't imagine if we had to work in the same environment where all the dust was flying and the asbestos abatement was taking place, and there's still no heating and air conditioning in the building. Hopefully the heat will get turned down soon because it's getting cooler and cooler out, right? So the building's going okay. I've actually tasked Captain Slater with a lot of the ancillary responsibilities on building. He does a great job at that, and both him and Captain Schaefer and myself, the 3 of us, are trying to stay ahead of it so we can keep functioning as a police department without too much of an interruption. The next thing on my list is calls for service. As of June, our calls of service were down, and mainly it's because every month from January until June, a good majority of that was related to the pandemic. So obviously, due to all of the extraordinary measures that we had to put in place, for instance, we did a lot of phone. We took a lot of calls over the phone, which it still accounted for a number, but our numbers were just dramatically down. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with traffic. For a while there, because of the pandemic and because of the high risk associated with exposures, we didn't do a lot of traffic enforcement. But as I mentioned in previous meetings, now we're starting to see a real significant uptick in traffic violations. So I think you'll see those numbers steadily rise and work out and be consistent with where we were at last year, or at least at our 5-year average. So I'll bring more numbers to the next meeting and give you a better indication of what's happening. I expect we're going to see some numbers in traffic enforcement, only because we as an agency we're in our phase 4 of sort of reopening. So we're actually getting a lot more aggressive on traffic in those areas where there's been concern. But in addition to that, we've just stepped up our seatbelt enforcement, try to keep the roads safe, as well as our school zone enforcement, because obviously school's open now. We couldn't hand out flyers like we've had in the past because we were concerned about exposure, but we got New York State DOT to put up those information boards that you'll see flashing in front of all the school zones, or at least most of the school zones, to sort of notify people. We try to do that in 2 phases, education phase first and then enforcement phase later, just to get people with the understanding that school's now open and be careful in the school zones. So I think we'll see an increase in our traffic enforcement numbers. The next thing is sergeant's promotion. I do have 1 sergeant's vacancy right now due to recent retirement. And we're going to be operating off of the old list, civil service list that we've already called for, that we received an extension on. And because we did a lot of interviews on the same folks that are on that list, I'll be doing individual interviews with each and every one of those sergeants in order to determine who is going to be promoted next. And then I'll, of course, bring my recommendations to the police committee on who I would like to promote to the next sergeant's position, which currently is, like I said, vacant. And then lastly, I think it went up today, and I know there's a link on the town's website. We are continuing with our annual community satisfaction survey. If you're not familiar with that, every single year we do a citizen satisfaction survey. We've been doing it for, it had to be 15, 20 years we've been doing this. And what we do is we randomly select residents throughout the town, to include all 3 villages. And we send out 1,000 notices to 1,000 randomly selected citizens. And we ask them to go to the website and answer a series of questions. I think there's like 25 questions that we look for input from. And this is all done anonymously, of course, and it's all coordinated through Syracuse University Maxwell House, which we've been in contract with essentially for 15 or 20 years. We're a student that's specifically taking a class on data collection and looking at various data and how we use data to do a better job. So that link is out there. So if anybody from the villages or the town makes an inquiry as to the citizen satisfaction survey, it's an annual thing that we've done every single year. And then when the results from that come back after the student has compiled all of the unanimous input, we do a nice report that we publish, and we'll make that available as well. And that's about all I have on my list.
Just a question. A requirement of CALEA as well. The questionnaire that comes out. Is that a requirement of CALEA?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, CALEA has a standard that says that the agency must do something in order to seek out information from its residents on basically our levels of performance. If you go to the website, a lot of the questions are related to performance. They're related to the fearfulness of crime in our town. What type of crime are they mostly fearful of, so we can concentrate our efforts on that. But most importantly, it talks about our connection, our relationships with our citizens. How competent do you feel the police are? How confident do you feel that they do their jobs in a way that best satisfies the needs of the community? So those questions are I guess, are a little dangerous to ask, to be quite frank to you, but I don't mind asking them because every single year we get really decent input. I wish we got more input. I wish we had more resources to be able to reach out to more people, because really, even if we get 1,000 entries, 1,000 entries out of a community of 32,000 people is not statistically not that great. But regardless of that, we collect all that input, and we try to change in a positive way, in a way that we can better address some of those concerns.
Thank you, Chief. Allison, do we have any correspondence that no? If not, we'll have the privilege of the floor, and I'd like to introduce Scott McGrew, Village of Manlius trustee. Scott?
Hello. Really nothing. I'm just trying to, like Mike said, the chief said, going through the renovations of the village center, which has been a trying experience for all. And I'm just, happy that things are going pretty smoothly. Other than that, there's really not much on the village front. That's all I got.
Scott, are you on time with those renovations?
They're a little behind because of, with the virus and stuff, put some of it behind a little bit. I don't think they're that far behind. And I know, with some of the change orders, putting the new ceiling grids into the PD and stuff, that, that has set it back a couple days.
I don't seem to be hearing much about parking at Three Falls Woods right now. Do you think that's because of the pandemic?
I don't know. It's being used a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah. Good. Thank you, Scott. Mr. Champagne, the Village of Minoa.
I didn't know if you wanted Mr. Abbott or me to speak.
Well, you both can speak. You both can't vote.
I got a couple of questions for the chief. One is the school zone over on Fremont Road. I've had some question on that because they said that they're doing some renovations over there. So you get people that are up on other people's behinds, and it's still a school zone. School is open. Is that still being used as a school zone, or because it's under construction, is that stretch of road no longer considered school zone?
Well, it's marked as a school zone, and quite frankly, the school doesn't really communicate with the police department on whether that building's being used or unused, or if it's being used at a certain capacity. We're kind of treating it as a school zone, not that because we want to increase enforcement, but we wouldn't want to miscommunicate the fact that it's a school zone, especially once that building is being used again. But at the same time, our officers are cognizant of the fact that if there's not a lot of children traveling to and from that school, it seems pointless to enforce the zone. So I think that the officers that work in that area probably are aware that the school is being renovated, and that if they do stop cars for a school violation, it's more of an education than an enforcement piece.
Yeah, because I told the residents just to consider it a school zone and do what you're supposed to do. Slow down.
Well, quite frankly, in addition to the school zone, as you indicated before, we've had a lot of complaints from citizens that live in that area, not necessarily related to the school. Tailgating is one of them, following too closely, high speed over that hill crest, not adhering to the pedestrian walkway in front of and quite frankly, on Fremont Road, even though that school might be renovated, if I'm not mistaken, the school administrative offices are still open. They're right there in that same area. So, yeah, there's really no law on that. I mean, if you close a school, I guess it's the responsibility. That's a county road. I guess it would be the responsibility of the county to come out and take all the signs down, flashing lights or whatever happened to be, and they haven't done that. So, but I think mostly we're just like warning people over there just to slow them down for all those reasons.
Okay, and I've had a couple of residents wanting to know how the police department was working, because we've had a lot of vehicle break-ins lately. I told them I know you're aware of it, but I would mention it.
Yes, we're very much aware of that. It's not just Manlius, but it's almost every suburban in the city, really every community in Onondaga County has experienced a super high spike in vehicle break-ins. We've done some things on social media to inform people to please lock your cars. We've been getting a lot of great feedback from residents, from their Ring doorbell systems, not just Ring, but any kind of video that they may offer to the police. We now have an ability to take that video in and process it accordingly. But mainly it's just locking your car. Because a lot of these groups, they're just going from car to car to car. If they find a locked door, they go to the next car. And it's only if you leave something really of value that's within plain sight that they would want to draw more attention to themselves by breaking a window or trying to, pry open a door or something to that effect. So the biggest message is just lock your car at night and don't leave valuables in the vehicle. And more than likely those people will go. Now we've done some aggressive enforcement efforts too, but with all the neighborhoods we have in the town of Manlius, it's kind of difficult to be everywhere. But we have put out extra patrols in unmarked vehicles as well as bike patrol. We just graduated a new bike patrol class, and we got, 3 or 4 police officers from Manlius that are now bike certified. And what's nice about that program is when the weather's still decent, they can go out on the bike and they're completely silent. They can pedal around these neighborhoods to try to identify who these people are. From what we can tell, it's groups that aren't even from our town, and they're being dropped off in these neighborhoods late at night. And then they're just sneaking around car to car, neighborhood to neighborhood. We've caught them on several occasions, but usually if we catch them, if we can charge them with anything, it's just an appearance ticket and they're on their way and they'll just go to the next neighborhood. So we're aware of it. And like I said, it's not just a Manlius problem, and we're doing everything we can to try to curb that. But at the same time, there's a lot of responsibility on our residents to make sure that they lock their vehicles, and if they lock their vehicles, they shouldn't be victimized.
Are you seeing that in these shopping malls as well, as much?
No, I haven't, only because it's quite frankly, it's easier pickings in the neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
People don't lock their cars and they leave their wallets and purses and laptops and other valuable items inside their vehicle unlocked. You're not going to find that probably in a shopping mall, and it's primarily being done at night. So the shopping mall parking lots are really not, there's nobody parking there. So it's easier for them to go to a neighborhood.
Sure. Anything else, John?
No, that's it.
Then
Thank
we
you.
also have from Manoa is John Abbott. I think, John, are you still there? No. Okay. Then from the village of Fayetteville, Dennis Duggleby.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. One quick question, Mike. Where is that survey online that you have? Can't seem to locate it. That'd be my first question. You can send me the link if you want.
I'll send you the link, but I went to it earlier today just to make sure it was up, and Allison, I think, helped us out on that. If you go to the Town of Manlius website, I believe there's a box in there that you can click, and it says Annual Satisfaction Survey 2020. And you click on that, and it brings you to another page, and then you click on another link, and you can sign right in.
All right. I will search for it. And then two, first I gotta say thank you for all the responsiveness on when we ask for additional assistance or some targeted enforcement. Really appreciate that. Or the signs, the counter signs. The one down on South Burdick, it's becoming a mess down there, and it's a big problem for those residents. So we got to do our due diligence and then make a decision from that point on, just so you're in the loop. And then I think the only other thing out of the village would be, Route 5 is, as always, through the villages, there's quite a bit of traffic, and like you said, you guys, enforcement was what it was because of COVID, and so we're getting more complaints than ever, and you understand that it's not a criticism. It's just something, if you guys could ask the officers in that post to kind of focus on that as a rule, would be awesome. And then we have the tree lighting, which is scheduled for November, the end of November as always. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'll let you know next Monday when we have our board meeting. I'll text you. I don't think we'll do what we always do. So which shouldn't be a shock to anyone, unfortunately. Other than that, pretty quiet around Village.
Well, good, Dennis. Keep it that way.
Yeah.
Counting on you. And Elaine, town councilor,
Thank you, Karen.
anything?
I do. I have an update. I'm very excited. I think this might be my first update on the police.
Good.
So, as you know, at our last meeting in June, we talked about the governor's executive order 203, and this committee suggested we creating a citizen committee. So since then, I have created a committee. We called it Public Safety Advisory Committee. We asked for interested community members to apply, and we received over 50 applicants. So that was amazing. That was great. I consulted with Chief Kroll as I was creating the committee, and he gave some great advice. We made sure that we included residents from across the town. Currently, the Public Safety Committee has 12 community members on it. We had our first meeting at the end of August. I believe it was August 27th. And at that meeting, we requested policies and data from Chief Kroll. And we decided to collect questions, comments, and ideas from the public before we even really started doing some work, just to get general questions to see where people are, where people's questions are, ideas are, to kind of guide us as we go through this process. So we will be going over these questions at our next meeting. The Public Safety Advisory Committee will be meeting tomorrow at 6:30. Our meetings are on Zoom, and they are open, so residents can follow along on Zoom or on Facebook. And if you have any questions on any of this, please feel free to let me know.
Thanks, Elaine. Was there anything else? If not, we'll have a motion to adjourn. Please, the next meeting, we'll keep it back on schedule, Chief, which would be October 28th. Allison? Yeah, good. And that'll get us right back on schedule. So, and if I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Great to see you. And maybe next we can meet in person with
Sounds good.
a few of us. That would be great. I'd look
That
forward.
sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take care,
Dennis.
everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.